رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، وصلى الله على سيدنا وحبيب قلوبنا وشفيع نفوسنا أبا القاسم محمد. الله على آل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين، لا سيما بقية الله روحي وأرواح العالمين لتراب مقدمه الفداء. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد في الأولين، اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد في الآخرين، اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد في الملأ الأعلى. أما بعد، يقول الله في محكم كتابه الكريم: بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. أمن هو قانت آناء الليل ساجدا وقائما يحذر الآخرة ويرجو رحمة ربه. صدق الله العلي العظيم. The first of our loud salawats in honor of the greatest man to walk this earth, Al-Habib al-Mustafa Muhammad. The second in honor of the greatest lady to walk this earth, Al-Hawra al-Batulati Fatima. And the third, with your loudest voices, in honor of our Imam, Imam Sahib al-Asri wal-Zaman. Allahumma salli Muhammad wa ali Muhammad wa ajil farajahum. The topic tonight, using the verse in question, will be a discussion that seeks to analyze a particular misconception that is famous amongst many Shia circles. And there is a need to tackle particular misconceptions and have discussions with particular thoughts that are very dominant within Shia circles. There's some things that are clear misconceptions and need to be tackled. Others, sometimes even we ourselves fall into the trap or say or do things unintentionally, not knowing the background behind it. Now, a few examples within history that could possibly be true or possibly be a misconception, as an example, and needs to be discussed in further discussions. We take examples such as al-Khutbah al-Fatimiyya, or as we know, al-Khutbah al-Fadakiyya. Now, a discussion about the naming of such a khutbah is one that's, for us, not very important because we understand what khutbah it is. But looking back within history to understand why this khutbah was given the name can showcase to us a deeper underlying message or a deeper underlying thought that was pushed. Now, when we look at the khutbah of Fatima al-Zahra, we begin to read it, and if you have Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad, this particular khutbah of Fatima al-Zahra, 11 pages roughly, A4 pages, the khutbah of Fatima al-Zahra, the one that we have gained from Sayyidah Zainab at 4 years of age. Now, this khutbah, when we read into the khutbah of Fatima al-Zahra, these 11 pages, do you know how much of these 11 pages are specified for the incident of Fadak? Who knows? Maybe 2 lines. 11 pages, only 2 lines are associated with the incident of the usurping of the right of Fatima, which was Fadak. Now, the question now arises, why is this khutbah known as al-Khutbah al-Fadakiyya? Question. It's some things that we need to ask ourselves. Why is a khutbah of Fatima al-Zahra cocooned to the incident of Fadak? Is there something of a deeper nature and meaning and a deeper attack on the tyrants of the time that they chose to cocoon it just towards the incident of Fadak? Question mark. We ourselves will say it from the pulpits as well, we'll say al-khutbah al-fadakiyya. Or we could have discussions to understand why we have this name in the first place and who was the first to call it as such. Another one can come forward and we can discuss the reasoning why we call the pilgrimage of Rasulullah, we all know it as Hajjatul. Who knows? The pilgrimage is Hajjatul Wida'. What does Hajjatul Wida' mean? The final Hajj, correct? Is there a question, how many Hajj or Hajjs did the Prophet go on? Question. If it's Hajjatul Wida', the final Hajj that the Prophet went on, how many did he go on? Only one. So if you're calling it Hajjatul Wida', all of a sudden you're saying, implicitly, that Prophet has gone to many different Hajjs before, and this is the last one. Or, if you begin to understand there's only one Hajj, you've called it Hajjatul Wida' because you're trying to cocoon a particular incident that occurred in Ghadir Khan. Correct? So now, all of a sudden, if we begin to have these discussions, we begin to look at underlying, let's say, thoughts that have been slowly pushed through books, understandings, and within our everyday life. Another one, which is very famous, that, again, we can have a discussion. I'm not dictating whether this is correct or incorrect, but rather it's a need of a discussion. The one that we famously say, coming forward, that every land is, what do we say? Karbala, and every day is? Alright. Now, if we understand this, yes, it might have a metaphorical meaning, but then we have to go back to who was the first that brought forward this particular understanding that every land is Karbala and every day is Ashura. When we have Imam al-Mujtaba alayhi afdal as-salati was-salam, Allahumma Imam al-Mujtaba famously says, La yawm ka yawmaka ya Aba Abdullah. There is no day like your day, O Aba Abdullah. But hold on, what we're saying every day is Ashura. Who brought this forward is a question mark. We need to begin to have these discussions and dialogues. Amongst these discussions and dialogues that we need to have is the discussion concerning Kufa. Allahumma salli ala. I'll take that as an agreement that we need to discuss Kufa. Why do we need to discuss Kufa? Many circles, many different ethnicities and backgrounds that come forward when Kufa is discussed, all of a sudden there is a negative connotation that is associated with the people of Kufa. People come forward and say, well, these are the people that Sayyida Zainab cursed. Others come forward and say, these are the ones that betrayed Imam Hussain. That the Shia are those that in Kufa that betrayed Abu Abdullah. Others come forward. So I'm talking from people from Iraq. They could have been born, brought up in Kufa. But when someone asks them, where are you from? All of a sudden, they find it within themselves some sort of being ashamed to say that I am from the land of Kufa. Why? Because the society has created this image that Kufa equals something that is negative when it comes towards Abu Abdullah and the incidents of Karbala. Now this needs to be discussed. Is it correct, this thought process? Is the understanding of Kufa or the Shia of Kufa betraying the Imam? Does it have a particular place within our theology? Or is it one of these misconceptions that we need to have a discussion, a dialogue with? And that's the topic and the importance for the topic tonight. Now when we look at Kufa, what does Kufa mean? Linguistically, Kufa can mean multiple things. One of which comes forward and says, a vast area of land, flat, mainly of dirt. Another says, no, a large area that is consistent of different elements such as dirt, pebbles, clay, what have you. Flat, large area. Some say no, it comes from the root word al-takawwuf, meaning something that is gathered. Now that thing that can be gathered could elevate it, or it could serve as something that protects that which is within and protects from all that which comes from the outskirts. At-takawwuf. Whichever one you look at it, Kufa has been given this name many years prior to the arrival of those in Islam to reside within it. The discussion tonight that we're going to have is going to be based on answering 6 particular questions so we understand, is this a misconception or isn't it? The first of these discussions, what is the significance and the history of the land of Kufa? Because when we begin to understand the history behind Kufa, it should give us a glimpse of whether this discussion is misconception or it has some truth. Number 1. Number 2, what's the relationship between Amir al-Mu'mineen and the land of Kufa? Number 3, what story can we take from the companions in Kufa that showcases to us the different dynamic within the land of Kufa? Number 4, when it comes towards the incidents revolving around the event of Karbala, what is the scenario in which Ubaydullah ibn Ziyad entered Kufa? Number 5, what are the 3 groups that were present of Shia, present in Kufa at the time of Abu Abdullah? And finally, we need to understand who were the army that attacked Imam Hussain on the 10th of Muharram in Karbala, to understand were they the Shia of Kufa or were they not. So inshallah we can start the lecture for tonight, bless the majlis and illuminate our hearts and minds with recitation of 3 loud salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. صلي محمد وآل محمد اللهم صل على. When we go towards the Holy Quran, there is an instance when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us سبحان الذي أسرى بعبده من المسجد الحرام إلى المسجد الأقصى. Isra and Mi'raj, 2 miracles of the Prophet. Isra, one place to another within this world. Mi'raj is an ascension. In the instance of Al-Isra, when he is traveling from different locations within this world, one of the locations in which, whilst he's on the Buraq, Rasulullah is given the opportunity to stop, and Jibreel begins to tell him, we need to come down from the Buraq in this particular land. What's this land, O Jibreel? He says, this is the land known as Kufa. Jibreel begins to tell him about this holy land of Kufa. What does he say to him? He says, this is the house of Adam and Nuh and the Musalla of Ibrahim. Keep that in mind. Come down, O Rasulullah, and pray 2 rak'at to add to all those that have come to this land before you. Adam, the father of creation, we're all known as Bani Adam. Adam, when he descended from the heavens and arrived on earth, the traditions tell us that when he came down from the heavens, he fell onto the mountain of Safa and his wife fell on Marwa. When they came down on this earth, in Mecca, they migrate towards Kufa. Mecca is a desert, barren land. Kufa was close towards a water source, very easy for them to plant, vegetation, to live. So they spent a lot of the time between Kufa and Mecca. And the scholars say more likely that they spent more time Adam in the land of Kufa because of the access of the water and the vegetation that is able to grow. Adam, one. Then you go towards Nuh. In historical accounts, Nabi Allah Nuh, where did you think he lived? In Kufa. That he began to build the ark in the land of Kufa. And the flood came from the earth in the land of Kufa. And it rained therein as well. So this particular ark of Nuh, when the floods came, it rose from Kufa, and over the period that it was afloat, went towards Mecca, and it was submerged. Entire Mecca was submerged. The mountains were submerged. The Kaaba was submerged. Allah says to Nabi Allah Nuh in the traditions that whilst you're on the boat, circumambulate the Kaaba 7 times. After he does that, he's trying to return to Kufa. Jibreel says to him, no, go towards the mountain of Abi Qubais. Why? He says, come and take a taboot, which is a coffin, with you, and return it with you towards Kufa. What's this taboot? Who did it have inside? None other than Nabi Allah Adam. Nuh brings Adam's body in the taboot back towards Kufa and buries it there. And that's why when we read the ziyarah for Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib, we say, Assalamu ala dhaji'ayka Adama wa Nuh. We read in the ziyarah for Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib that, O Allah, peace and blessings on those that lie on either side of Imam, Amir al-Mu'mineen, Adam and Nuh. And in Kufa, as we begin to understand it, Nuh, alayhi afdal salatu wa salam, he is the one that dug the grave of Amir al-Mu'mineen. Where? In Kufa. Because Najaf, as we understand it, in historical accounts is known as what? Dhahr al-Kufa. The back of Kufa. Or the rear of Kufa. That's what Najaf is. Amir al-Mu'mineen's grave is dug up there. And that's why when you look at the will of Amir al-Mu'mineen to his son Imam al-Hassan, telling him how he should go about burying him, he says, take me, or take this coffin of mine, you will find a naqa, the naqa will take you towards a particular location. When it goes down, you take and begin to dig the earth, there you will find the grave that has already been dug. And in our traditions, exactly what was told to him, he's done. And as he's beginning to dig up the grave, there is a grave that's already dug. So he lifts a bit of the sand. There's a grave that's dug there. Inside he finds a note from who? Nabi Allah? Nuh, ahsant. It says, this is a grave dug by the Prophet of Allah Nuh for Abdullah Ali ibn Abi Talib. And the link between Amir al-Mu'mineen and Kufa starts not when he migrates, but all those years ago, when it was established for Amir al-Mu'mineen to enter the land of Kufa and to be buried there. Because Amir al-Mu'mineen, where was he? The Islamic capital was where? Medina, correct? Islamic capital was Medina. After the first battle in Islam, in the time of Amir al-Mu'mineen, is known as the Battle of Jamal, Basra. When he finishes the Battle of Jamal, he could return to Medina to establish his governance, correct? But he chooses not to. He chooses to go towards the land of Kufa to establish his government. When he establishes government, there's a reason why. Because for the 4 civil wars, or the 3 civil wars, I should say, that he rose in, Jamal, Siffin, and Nahrawan, these 3 battles, who do you think were the ones that fought alongside Amir al-Mu'mineen? It's people from Medina, from Hijaz, from Sham? Or was his army made primarily from those that resided within the land of Kufa? Those are the ones that fought alongside Amir al-Mu'mineen. Now, obviously, we understand that not everyone's fingers are the same. Some were good, some were bad. They don't have the same levels. There's good and then there's great companions amongst them in the army of Amir al-Mu'mineen. But we want to create an image of who was in Kufa. Yes, they've supported Amir al-Mu'mineen, but there are different levels to these personalities within Kufa. How so? Because this is something that we really need to comprehend and understand. The people within Kufa, Imam establishes, not going too much into detail about what occurred prior to Amir al-Mu'mineen, but in the Khilafah of the first, the second and the third. The best way to showcase to you what occurred is before the third was elected. Before Uthman ibn Affan was elected, they gathered 6 people within the house to elect the next governor or the next Khalifa. They elected Imam Amir al-Mu'mineen before they elected Uthman. They elected Amir al-Mu'mineen before they elected Uthman. But there was a condition. What was the condition? They say, all right, we've chosen you, O Amir al-Mu'mineen, to be the Khalifa. However, the condition is that you have to lead this Islamic Ummah with the Quran, the Sunnah of Rasulullah, and the Sunnah of the Shaykhain, which is Abu Bakr and Umar. That's what he said. Amir al-Mu'mineen replies by saying, I don't want this Khilafah unless I can solely lead using the Quran and the Sunnah of Rasulullah, because halal Muhammad halal ila yawm al-qiyamah wa haram Muhammadin haramun ila yawm al-qiyamah. That which Rasulullah has made permissible is permissible to the day of judgment. That which Rasulullah has made impermissible, then it is haram till the day of judgment. There doesn't need to be another Sunnah and a third and a fourth and a fifth one. They say, you don't agree? He says, I don't agree. They gave it to the third, and for 13 years he ruled. Until the Khilafah comes towards Amir al-Mu'mineen. Imagine in those 25 years how much Islam has deteriorated from the correct message. So when he enters the land of Kufa, in Masjid al-Kufa, he begins to see everyone praying Taraweeh. Time of Rasulullah, there was no Jama'ah in Taraweeh, right? Everyone's praying Jama'ah Taraweeh. So Amir al-Mu'mineen says, no, this is not the Sunnah of Rasulullah. Remove yourself from Jama'ah and pray by yourself. This is mustahab salah. And the tradition says from all 4 corners of the masjid, there was a line that everyone said. They would say, Wa sunnata Umara. Woe on the sunnah of Umar, we're going to lose it. Because he wants us to remove ourselves. It wasn't a sunnah of Rasulullah, it was a sunnah of Umar. So now, Amir al-Mu'mineen is in a position where he's ruling on Kufa, but the people under him are not all primarily his Shia. They follow him as the Khalifa, but they're not in the understanding of the Shia Ithna Ashari understanding that we understand nowadays. To further this understanding and concept, the people at the time, to look at all the propaganda that occurs, the people of the time, when Amir al-Mu'mineen was killed, Amir al-Mu'mineen is killed, they ask, how in Sham, how did he die? Because Muawiyah is telling everyone that attack this person because he's not a Muslim or to the level to be a Khalifa. So now they ask the question, how did he die? So he's got to tell them, how did Amir al-Mu'mineen pass away? He was struck while he's in sujood. So then all of a sudden, the people in Sham, what did they all come forward and say? Did Ali pray? Such was the image that was created of Amir al-Mu'mineen. And how much they tried to remove from the merits and the accolades of Amir al-Mu'mineen. Because they couldn't handle the fact that these people in Kufa were the Shia of Amir al-Mu'mineen, that supported Amir al-Mu'mineen. So their pens were solely there to bring down any image of those that followed Amir al-Mu'mineen. And remove the merits. It's a Masjid al-Kufa. When we all go to Masjid al-Kufa, there is a particular door known as Bab al-Thu'ban. Do we know this? There's a door called the Door of the Serpent, Masjid al-Kufa. Why? Why is it called Bab al-Thu'ban in Masjid al-Kufa? There's a particular story and an event that occurred in honor of Amir al-Mu'mineen, that a serpent comes through that door in Masjid al-Kufa and speaks to Amir al-Mu'mineen. Amir al-Mu'mineen replies to the serpent and it leaves. That serpent, as we begin to understand it, was the wasi from the jinn that came to speak towards Amir al-Mu'mineen. In honor of the serpent and that miracle of Amir al-Mu'mineen, that door was called Babul Thu'ban, the door of the serpent. Now, what does the people that hated Amir al-Mu'mineen begin to do when they're in Khilafah? Do you know, history says to us that they tied an elephant to that door for an entire month. Why? So that anyone that comes in, which door did you come from? The door of the elephant. Which one did you leave from? The door of the elephant. The elephant all of a sudden dies after a few months. But the conspiracy to try to remove in any way, shape or form the merits of Amir al-Mu'mineen was there. It was seen. But these people that followed him in battle, what type of people were they? I take you towards an incident in Siffin. In Siffin, in the arbitration, Muawiyah is losing. What does he do? He puts the Qur'ans on the spears. We want an arbitration. Let the Qur'an be the deciding factor. Amir al-Mu'mineen replies by saying, I am the walking, talking Qur'an. Follow me. Yeah. He says, follow me. Do not fall for their traps. They say the first from Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib's army to revolt against him were Qurra'ul Qur'an. Meaning who? The ones that were the Hafiz of the Holy Qur'an. The ones that knew the Qur'an more than anyone else are the ones that first attacked Amir al-Mu'mineen. The first instance, as you know, we call him Amir al-Mu'mineen. As the Khalifa of the time, they called him that as well. The first instance, when they stopped even calling him Amir al-Mu'mineen, the leader of the Qur'an reciters and the Huffaz would say, Ya Ali, without the honor of Amir al-Mu'mineen, if you do not succumb to this arbitration, then we will attack you with our swords. Do you see all of a sudden the army split and then the Khawarij come out? They didn't understand the position of Ali. You begin to understand who the people in Kufa were. They were good, and then there were a question mark on people's understanding. Further than that, I take you to another example. The tradition that we have, Amir al-Mu'mineen, Kumail says, one day, Amir al-Mu'mineen, after Salat al-Isha'ain, takes me ila Dhahr al-Kufa. Dhahr al-Kufa is what? Where? Najaf. He says, we went to Dhahr al-Kufa. When we went to Dhahr al-Kufa, we passed by a house. When we passed by a house, look at what Kumail says. He says, as we passed by the house, he says, I heard beautiful recitation. Recitation from Surah Al-Zumar, ayah number 9. أَمَّنْ هُوَ قَانِتٌ آنَاءَ اللَّيْلِ. The one that we stated earlier. He says, I heard it. The beautiful voice mesmerized me. I didn't say a word. In my head, I thought to myself, how beautiful is this voice? Therefore, how religious this person reciting it could be. He says, I just had a thought within my mind. He says, Amir al-Mu'mineen looks at me at that moment. You know what he says? He says, Ya Kumail, la tughirruka, or la yughirruka tantanat al-rajul. The man's reciting Quran. Tantana, just to put it into perspective. Tantana, you know, an animal makes noise sometimes. They refer to it as tantana, just meaningless noise. But the man's reciting Quran, or Amir al-Mu'mineen. He says, La yughirruka tantanat al-rajul. Meaning that for this man that you're hearing it from, is just sounds coming from his mouth. It doesn't go inside, doesn't affect him, doesn't change him. Kumail says, I didn't for a moment tell him what I was thinking, but he knew what was in my heart. He says, after a few years, in the battle of Nahrawan. Against who? The Khawarij. He says, come with me, Kumail. He says, I came between those that were killed. And he says, with his bloodied sword, he points at a person on the ground. And he looks at me and he says, Ya Kumail, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, Amman huwa qanitun ana al-layl. This is the person that you heard all those years ago. He's come out and fought me. One day he was in Kufa with me, fighting alongside me. But he doesn't understand who I am. That he's fought me. In Kufa, we had this dynamic. Imam Hussain alayhi salam, as he's leaving Mecca to go towards Kufa, sees Farazdaq, a poet. He says, in Farazdaq, tell me about those whom I go towards. He says, قُلُوبُهُمْ مَعَكْ وَلَكِنْ سُيُوفُهُمْ عَلَيْكَ. Their hearts, O Hussein, are with you. As in, they've had Amir al-Mu'mineen ruling over them as a Khalifa for many years. They understand the position of Ahlul Bayt. They love you. But when it comes down to fighting, their swords, they're not going to be aligned with you. You go into Kufa just to showcase to you the dynamic of the good and the bad. There's a tradition that comes forward that says two of the companions, one of them by the name of Maytham al-Tammar, another by the name of Habib ibn Mudahir, they say that they met in Kufa. Who's narrating this story? The people around them. They said, we saw Maytham and Habib on horses speaking to each other so close that the heads of their horses locked. That's how close they were speaking. What were they saying? They said one of them looks at the other and he says the following lines. He says, it's as if I've seen a bold man with a belly that sells melons being crucified for his love for Amir al-Mu'mineen. And his stomach will be punctured on the gallows themselves. Who's saying this? Habib to Maytham. Maytham understood. He replies by saying what? He says, it's as if I see a red-faced man with two braids going towards the Nusra of the grandchild of Rasulullah and attaining martyrdom. They speak to each other and then they go their separate ways. The people around in Kufa, what do they say? They say, we've never seen people more or lie more than these ones. Like, how would you know how you die? But look at the knowledge, just to put it into perspective, of what these two people had as companions of the highest level of Amir al-Mu'mineen. Maytham and Habib. The people around them did not understand the level that you need to reach to have this kind of knowledge given to you by Amir al-Mu'mineen. They begin to call everyone liars. Now when you come towards Kufa, the question now is, what occurred in order for Ubaydullah ibn Ziyad to be sent by Yazid? That's the question. When someone comes with the discussion saying that the people of Kufa are the ones that betrayed Imam al-Hussain, you reply firstly by saying this. The Imam al-Hussain wrote letters to different places. The only people that replied saying, we want you, O Aba Abdullah, are the people of Kufa in large quantities. No one else said, oh Imam, come, we'll support you. Imam, come, we want you as our leader. That's number one. Number two, when he sends Muslim ibn Aqil towards Kufa to establish and prepare for his arrival, Muslim ibn Aqil would pray in the masjid. The traditions say up to 12,000 people would be behind him in Jama'ah. 12,000. The news of this reached to Yazid. Yazid, after attaining this news that all of a sudden Kufa has been overtaken by Muslim, becomes very angered. Who's next to him? A personality by the name of Sir John. Sir John was the advisor of his father previously, and he's told him many things that hinged everything towards the Umayyads and assisted them in their every move. He's the one that is behind the movements against Imam al-Hassan and Amir al-Mu'mineen before him. This person was a mastermind, evil, but a mastermind nonetheless. He says, what should I do, O Sir John? He says, make sure you send a personality by the name of Ubaydullah ibn Ziyad to rule over them. Only someone that is so low is able to overcome these type of people. So when you go and read the will of Muawiyah, there's some secrets there. There's a will that Muawiyah writes to his son Yazid. Long will, I'll take 2 snippets out of it. Amongst that which is written within the will of Muawiyah is the following. He says, O Yazid, your strength is in the army of Sham that I have spent countless hours and years and wealth preparing them. They're your strength. Anyone gives you a problem, you send them towards them, and you will attain victory undoubtedly. Because they will go in any path that you send them blindly. And we see that. He sends an army, what happens? Karbala, kills Imam Hussain. He goes towards Mecca, sends them, and you understand what happens to Mecca and the atrocities that they burnt the Kaaba. They go towards Medina, bloodshed until it reached meters from the grave of Rasulullah. No understanding. Wherever he points them, the army would go. He says, I prepared this army for you. He says, when it comes towards the people of Iraq, if you have to change their governor every day, then do so. Because it's better and easier for you to change the governor than have 100,000 swords facing you. In the will of who? Muawiyah. To showcase to you that there is a potentiality within the land of Kufa to rise against the tyrants. So he brings Ubaydullah ibn Ziyad and sends him towards Kufa. Now how does he arrive? How does Ubaydullah arrive in Kufa? Kufa now is under the command of Muslim ibn Aqil. Ubaydullah ibn Ziyad understand Muslims inside. Muslims inside, he's told everyone to await who? The arrival of Imam Hussain. Ahsant. Everyone's waiting for the arrival of Imam al-Hussain alayhi salam. Now there's many gates that you can enter Kufa from. These gates, they would say Ubaydullah ibn Ziyad with men would enter from one of these gates, but he would wear a black turban and would be veiled. Black turban, veiled. Why? So he may appear as someone else, correct? So when people see him, they think it's... So they allow him to enter Kufa, go straight towards the palace. Nu'man ibn Bashir is sitting there, removes him from his seat, tells him, now I am the governor, appointed by Yazid. Now look at the movements all of a sudden, because he has a very short time frame to do what he needs to do. In this short time frame, what does he do? Removes Nu'man ibn Bashir, brings the heads of the clans. You know, the VIPs within Kufa, brings them all. Shuyukh al-Ashayir, everyone would come forward that were in charge of clans, in charge of their tribe, respected within their communities. And he said a speech that was, if you read it, utter terrorism. Utter terrorism. Either you join me or you're against me. If you cooperate, I'll let you live and your life and your clan's life be spared. If you do not cooperate, then the sword is between me and you. Simple. There's nothing third about it. Assisting him, he brought from Sham a large amount of wealth with him. Why? To buy people. You know, in the time of Muawiyah, there's a very famous story. When people would come to get the wealth that is allocated to them, two different people came coincidentally at the same time. One of them, Muawiyah, gives 70 gold coins The other, he gives 100. So the man that gets 100 gold coins, takes it in front of him, kisses it, leaves straight away. The person is like, the bag that you've given me is a little bit light, O Muawiyah. His one looks heavy. Why? He says, I've given him 100, I've given you 70. He goes, but why have you given me 70 and him 100? He says, because with that 100, I've bought from him his religion. So for us, we can be like, Astaghfirullah. The person, what does he reply? He says, oh Muawiyah, give me 100 and I'll sell you my religion as well. So we had this type of people, when he comes with a large amount of wealth and he gives the promise to personalities, such as Umar ibn Sa'd, saying, not only will I give you wealth, I will give you Mulk al-Ray, the governorship of Ray, modern day Persia. Very easy for him, as Umar ibn Sa'd, to take that opportunity and take 4,000 people and attack Abu Abdullah. Shimr hears that there is rewards available, takes another 4,000, goes towards Karbala. So either you're being bought or you're being attacked. And who's in charge? The heads of your clans. Now where's the Shia now? Where's the Shia? The ones that wrote the letters for Abu Abdullah al-Hussein. Because this is a question we have to answer for tonight. Before we answer this question, we need to look at the population of Kufa. At that time, the population in Kufa differs between 100 and 120,000 people. Between 100 and 120,000 people. The Shia, in traditions, is between 12 to 15. Just let that sink in first and foremost. Shia, 12 to 15,000 in a population of 100 to 120. So already you're like 1/7 of the population, correct? Give or take. What are the different groups of Shia now? They've written for the Imam's arrived, there's 12,000 behind Muslim ibn Aqil. Now all of a sudden, Ubaydullah ibn Ziyad has come into power and has threatened everyone. He's made example of people. He's killed many that doesn't want to join the army to fight Abu Abdullah. He's killed many. Even people that are just passing by. It's a tradition that we have. A person comes to just finalize some wealth, something to do with his wealth. Someone passed away and he's taking his inheritance. He says, join the army. He says, it's not my fight. I'm going back to Sham. Nothing to do with me. He says, no, either you join or there's a sword. He says, I'm not joining. He makes an example of him in front of all those that were watching. So you see this occurring. Now where's the Shia? Shia are three groups. The first are the creme de la creme, the highest ranking. Now these are the ones that in one way, shape or form went towards Abu Abdullah. Personalities like Muslim, personalities like Habib. They fought in order for them to go towards Karbala. The greatest of the companions, they're a minority. The second group, which possibly the majority of the Shia fall into, were prevented from going towards Karbala. Prepared, they've understood what's occurred, they want to go. Ubaydullah ibn Ziyad closes off all the exits and all the routes. Anyone that tries to use the routes to go towards Karbala, prosecuted, killed, jailed, arrested. So you'll find in our traditions, some traditions come forward and say 4,000 Shia, the smallest amount, were jailed. Other traditions come forward and say up to 12,000 of the Shia of Amir al-Mu'mineen were jailed within the prisons. Where's the Shia, you ask me? The ones that wrote the letters. And the third group is the one that did not want to fight against Imam Hussain. They were forced either to be in hiding or to migrate to another land, not to be in the presence of those that fight against Imam Abdullah al-Hussain. So these are the three groups that we have. These are where the Shia went. Either they went to Abu Abdullah, either they were jailed or killed or prosecuted. Khan ibn Arwa, you know who was in the jails? Personalities like Maytham al-Tammar, personalities like Mukhtar al-Thaqafi, like Sulaiman, the leader of the Tawabun, all in jails. That's where they were. And the question is, who killed Abu Abdullah? Because the thing that everyone tries to portray is that the Shia were the ones that were responsible for killing Imam Hussain in Karbala. And they use this opportunity to say that they're the ones that wrote the letters, and they are the ones when Imam Hussain came did not assist him and aid him. Baba, the Shia are either 1, 2 or 3. No other place that they could have been. Then who killed him? You go towards some of the ziyarat that we have. Begin to see little notions. وَهَذَا يَوْمٌ فَرِحَتْ بِهِ Who? Alu Ziyad wa Alu Marwan. Does it say, and the Shia, or the people of Iraq, or those that wrote the letters? No. The people that were happy on this day is Al Marwan or Al Ziyad. And that's why when you go towards Karbala, this is something that's of the utmost importance. When Imam al-Hussein himself speaks, when he addresses the army that has opposed him, what does he say? Ya Shi'at al-Abi. What does he say? Ya Shi'at al-Abi Sufyan. Addressing the entire army. This is Ya Shi'ati, my companions. Does he say, oh people that have written letters for me and now have betrayed me? He says, oh Al-Abu Sufyan, or oh Shia of Al-Abu Sufyan. When he addresses them. Kufa is a sacred land. When we look at Kufa, I'll just give you some of the instances. When Kufa was, let's say, lived in the time of the second Khalifa, by personalities that established it there, such as Salman, such as Hudayfa. Hudayfa and Salman, when they speak about this land, after they camped, look at what the words of Salman are. He says, هذه البقعة الموعودة. This piece of land is the promised land. Why is it promised? سيأتي زمان لا يبقى مؤمن إلا فيها أو يحن إليها. There will come a time where every believer will be present within it or is longing to be present within it. You know what the Imam says? He says about the tina, the turba of Kufa. He says, طينة نحبها وتحبنا. That this land, or those that come from this land, in another understanding, are these people that we love and they love us. So now the question is, when Sayyidah Zainab goes to Sham and she begins to curse the people in Kufa, who is she cursing? Do you think that her address for the people that were still there and not in the jails and not laying on the plains of Karbala was Shia? When she addresses those in Kufa, not once, when you go and read the speech of Sayyidah Zainab, not once does she refer to the letters that were written. Not once did she say, you're the ones that called us and you've betrayed us. Do you know where this instance comes from? Because you have to understand, if you go back to the understanding of the pens that were writing against all those that followed Amir al-Mu'mineen, were the pens that tried to degrade the people of Kufa. People that come forward and say about the land of Kufa to be a land that is, in their words, khabitha, la'ina. These are the words that they use to describe the people of Kufa. Saba'iyatun, khashabiyya. Why? Because they say this is the land of Abdullah ibn Saba, which they refer the Shia to be following, as we all understand. They say that the Shia are the followers of Abdullah ibn Saba. Or al-Khashabiyya, meaning the personality of Mukhtar and who follows him. You begin to see that there is a hatred that's created for the people that opposed Muawiyah, opposed the Umayyads, opposed Banu al-Abbas. That's where it becomes from or derives from. Whereas there is a reason why the Imam Sahib al-Asri wal-Zaman chooses Kufa to be the land where he establishes. Not establishes his governance. The capital of the world will be Kufa, because that's where he establishes justice and eradicates tyranny. That will be the capital of the world. The same reason that Imam Amir al-Mu'mineen established his governance in Kufa. The same reason that Imam Hussain was going towards Kufa. The same reason why Imam Sahib al-Asri wal-Zaman is going towards Kufa is because it has something special. There is a reason why everyone that dies wants to go towards being buried to be the neighbor of Imam Amir al-Mu'mineen. There's something within the lands. There is a group of people, however, not from the Shia of Amir al-Mu'mineen, people that still had love for Ahlul Bayt, still had an understanding of the personalities, that had to choose sides there and then. Amongst these people is the one that we commemorate tonight. A person as well that comes from Kufa, one of the generals that was given an army to stop Imam al-Hussein from reaching Kufa, by the name of Hur ibn Yazid al-Riyahi. Hur was from Kufa. Hur was a general, a brave man. Stops Imam al-Hussein from getting towards Kufa, and he keeps him and diverts him towards the land of Karbala. Hur is in a moment in Karbala where, after stopping Abu Abdullah al-Hussein, speaking with Abu Abdullah al-Hussein, praying behind Abu Abdullah al-Hussein, he has orders, following orders, stops Imam al-Hussein from going towards Kufa. But he had a love. He understood who Imam al-Hussein was, who his mother was. He sees that when Imam al-Hussein first was in Karbala, he allowed the army of Hur, as well as their horses, to drink from the river. Hur remembers this, but all of a sudden he sees, as he stopped Imam al-Hussein from reaching the water, he sees the army all of a sudden increase. Umar ibn Sa'ad comes with 4,000. Shimr comes with 4,000. The 8,000 becomes 10. The 10 becomes 20. The 20 becomes 30. And every time the army becomes more and more, Hur is looking at the faces of the children of Abu Abdullah. Hur is looking at the woman of Abu Abdullah. He sees all of a sudden the cries in the tents begin to increase. The ladies all of a sudden are not as easy as they were moments ago. He begins to see the fear in their faces. He begins to see the armies bringing fear within the hearts of the children, of the daughters, of the wives, of the sisters, of the companions of Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam. This truly struck Hur. He thought to himself, surely they're not going to fight the grandson of Rasulullah, the son of Fatima. So one of the nights before the battle commences, he goes towards the camp of Umar ibn Sa'ad. He says, Umar, I want to ask you a question. Umar says, what's the question? He says, أَأَنْتَ مُقَاتِلٌ هَذَا الرَّجُلِ? Are you going to fight this man? Surely you're not going to fight Abu Abdullah. Look at the reply of Umar. Umar says to him, he says, Oh Hur, I will fight such a fight, or such a battle will commence, that there will be heads that will be severed, and there will be hands that will be cut. Oh Hur, there's no stopping now. We've got the orders, and there are many gifts and rewards that await us. Hur hears this. When he returns from Umar, the traditions say his companions are looking towards Hur. They see him shivering in such a state that they've never seen him. Shivering. They look towards him, they say, Hur, what's the matter? Why is it that we've seen you in such a stance? If anyone was to ask us who is the bravest in Kufa, we would not hesitate to bring forward your name, O Hur. He says to him, O companion of mine, the reason why I shake is because أخير نفسي بين الجنة والنار. That now I'm in a moment where I am choosing between heaven and hell. فوالله لا أختار على الجنة شيئا. I will not choose anything besides heaven. Hur finds a moment to look left and right. He waits until he has an opportunity to leave his camp and go towards the camp. But what is the edge? What's that moment in which Hur's moment changes and he says, I will no longer be in this army. I want to be and fight and die alongside Imam Hussain. That moment is when all of a sudden his companion, when he sees him shivering, asks him this question. He says, Hur, have you fed your horse water? Hur, upon hearing this, thinks to himself that he's asking about an animal if it's drank water or not, but the son of Fatima is thirsty in the tents. How can I bear being in this position? So he runs towards the army and the camp of Imam al-Hussain. But how does he attain the camp? He goes towards the camp with his spear upside down and his shield inside out in humility in front of Imam al-Hussain. He comes towards Imam al-Hussain on his knees. He sees Abu Abdullah. He knows very well he was the reason why they did not go towards Kufa. They did not arrive towards the gates of Kufa, that they are all thirsty, because he was the one that is responsible for stopping them. He hears the cries in the tents of all the young girls of Imam al-Hussain. He hears the cries of Sukayna. He hears the cries of Ruqayya. He knows it's because of him that Zainab al-Kubra is thirsty within the tents. He says to Imam al-Hussain, Aba Abdullah, Ala min tawbah. Is there a way that I can repent? Is there a way I can return towards Allah? He says, Oh Hur, there is always a turn towards Allah. If you are sincere, Allah will forgive you. Hur goes towards the battlefields. My brothers and sisters, Hur, moments he's not by himself. He is going on the battlefield alongside Imam al-Hussain. Hur and Abu Abdullah are fighting on the plains of Karbala. They say to themselves, Hur is a valiant warrior. He kills of the enemies 40 men. They say, we do not allow Hur to be by himself. Make sure that you surround him, isolate him. Only then will you be able to kill Hur because of his bravery. So true enough, they begin to isolate Hur slowly from Abu Abdullah. They surround Hur from every side. All of a sudden, two men approach. One of them had a particular jealousy for Hur, saying, if I had ever an opportunity to kill him, then I will not hesitate to do so and take his position. So because of this, he comes towards him at a moment where everyone surrounds him. He strikes Hur. Hur falls to the ground. He looks towards Abu Abdullah. He says, Assalamu alayka ya Abu Abdullah. Amongst the tragedies, you have to imagine how much Hur and the movements of Hur affected Umar ibn Sa'd, that when he finished Karbala, and after Imam Hussain was killed, when he was sharpening the hooves of the horses, he had an animosity and a hatred towards Hur. He says at this moment when he prepared the horse riders, he says, find me Hur, because Hur and what he did, leaving my army for the army of Hussein, it still hurts me. I want him to be the first that will be trampled on by the hooves. So he takes the horse riders towards the body of Hur. All of a sudden the people, the companions, the family of Hur say, no, Umar, I know and we've understood you've killed Hur, that's no problem, but he has a family here in Karbala. We do not give you permission to trample the body of Hur. Then Umar ibn Sa'ad still, he wants to trample someone's body. He says, if it's not Hur, find me someone else. I want these horses to trample the bodies. He says, go towards Ali al-Akbar. Trample the body of Ali. The family of Ali from his mother's side say, no, why would we allow you? You've already killed him. His head's on a spear. We do not give you permission to trample on the body of Ali al-Akbar. He says, find me Qasim. He says, Qasim has family. Go towards Habib. Trample Habib's body. Banu Asad would say, no, Habib has family here. We do not give you permission to trample on the body of Habib. He says, go towards Abbas. Go and trample on the body of Aba Fadl al-Abbas. A group would come forward, they say, no, we are the family of Aba Fadl. We do not give you permission. Umar ibn Sa'ad still, he says, then who is here in Karbala that does not have a family or a tribe, does not have a mother, does not have a father or anyone to defend him in the plains of Karbala? They say there is only one man that is a gharib in Karbala. Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un.